Okay, we're going to talk about texturing within Vizrt T5, and more specifically, using physical-based rendering within the Viz Engine Render pipeline. So we're going to build a scene out using PBR materials and an environment map to create a 3D environment in which we can light. So PBR rendering, or physical-based rendering, uses several images to create one texture. So as we come into our PBR folder within our asset view here, and we click on some of our PBR images, you can see that it's made up of several images. We have a color or albedo map, we have an ambient occlusion, we have a normal, we have usually a height or displacement map, and then some sort of normal map, and maybe a couple of others to create a texture. Now, to begin setting up the scene, we actually need to create an environment, and to do that we need an environment map. And if you need an environment map, you can certainly go to the internet, download one, and then import it into Vizrt. Once we have it imported, it comes in as an image. Now, if we just take that environment map that we imported and try to drag it onto our environment map, it's going to give us a warning. It says environment map needs to be pre-filtered. We can hit OK, and that means we need to come into that image, actually right-click on it, and say pre-filter environment map. Once we do that, you get an icon here up in the upper right. It says ENV for environment, and that's letting you know that it is now pre-filtered. So once you have a pre-filtered environment map, you can take that and drag it right into our asset placement under the environment. We have an intensity setting right there. We're going to leave that as is right now. Next, we're going to start building our scene using our PBR materials here. And you can see when I click through my PBR materials that I have several here. And again, I just went to the internet, and you can download these through several free resources and or paid resources as well for whichever type of material that you're looking for. To begin, we're going to jump over into our geometry plugins. We're going to come down to our search. We're going to type in rectangle, and then we're going to take a rectangle and drag that up into our scene tree window. We'll click on the rectangle icon to go into the rectangle editor. We're going to set our width to 2000, and we'll set our height to 1000. I'm going to go into the transformation editor and just push this back in Z-space by decreasing the amount, and when I do that, you can see that it's pushing the rectangle back. Now I need to start texturing it, and to do that we need to add a PBR material or a PBR plugin. So I'm going to go into my container plugins. I'm going to select that drop down, come into my search, and I can type in PBR. And here we have a PBR material. I'm going to slide that onto our container. Once we do that, we get an icon, and we can click on that icon, and it opens up our texture settings here. We have a couple of blank boxes. It has color, emissive color, normal, brightness, metallic, ambient occlusion, and height. So we need to drop materials into each one of these blank boxes. So again, we have several options within our asset view for our PBR materials. And if we want to choose any one of these to use, we can. So here we have our albedo or our color map, which I'm going to drop right onto our color. And immediately you see that it textures the rectangle. Now I want to go and drop the rest of my images into the proper places. So I have an AO here, so I'm going to drop that into the ambient occlusion, and again you can see the change within the scene editor window. Now I have a height map. I'm going to take this height map and drag that into the height box, and I also have a normal map, and I'm going to drop that into the normal map spacing, and again you see the changes reflected real time within your window here. I've got all of my textures dropped in there. I can come down to the very bottom to my texture coordinates and make changes accordingly if need be. We can scale this up or down, we can offset it, or we can rotate it as well. For now, I'm just going to scale this up a little bit and just leave it as is. Right now, this will be our back wall. We also will need a floor. So I'm going to copy this rectangle by holding down Control, clicking and dragging, and it copies it. Now we want to rotate this. So I'm going to click on the transformation editor, and we're just going to rotate this 90 degrees or close to it so that it will represent our floor. Now I'm going to push this down on my space, and we're going to change out our PBR material on here. Instead of using the brick, we'll use a wood plank. So we can come up into our rectangle. If we want to rename this, we can double click on it and just say this is the floor. We have our PBR material on there. We can just get rid of that if we want, and we can slide that new PBR material on there just to give us a blank box, since we are going to use all new images. Now I'm going to come into my new PBR material and I'm going to start dropping my images into the proper place. I have my ambient occlusion, I have my color map here, I have my displacement map here, and we have our metallic map here, we have a normal map here, and we also have our roughness. So here you can see our floor starts taking shape. I'm going to go into our editor again, and I want the planks to run a different way, so I'm going to rotate this again on our Z-plane at 90 degrees. I'm just going to reposition this over and slide it over, and we're just going to copy that again and shift the other side right a little bit. So as we go forward and start adding lights to our scene, there'll be some things that we need to troubleshoot in order to work out shadows and reflections. So that's why I made 2 floorboards instead of just 1. Okay, so our scene is beginning to take shape. I'm going to push my wall back in Z space a little bit more, and if you wanted to come in and certainly increase the sizes of our rectangles, we could do that as well, reposition them, but bear in mind, once you do make a change, you may need to come back into your texture coordinate settings again and then just readjust whatever settings you need. Now, if I wanted to come into the floor again and just increase the width of our floor and readjust it, the position of it again, we can do that. So I'm just going to go ahead quickly and just increase the height of our floor and reposition it here. Now we're going to grab an object or some type of 3D object and drop it within this scene. So I'm going to go into my G or Geometries tab and look for a 3D object. Here I have an object that we made within an external program, and here you can see it is a cannon that we made, and if we rotate this around a little bit, we'll be able to see it a little bit better. We're just going to place this within our scene somewhere better that we can see it. So I'll push it back in Z space a bit, make sure it's touching the floor, and then we can scale it up from there, reposition it, place it wherever we need. Now, we made this in an external program. The textures and everything is already in there, and you can see it when we imported it, brings it in as one geometry object. We have the option to come up here. We have the option to come up here and split this, and once we split it, we can now reveal all of the different containers within it. So you can see that we have added a texture for each part here. If we turn a wheel off, we have a texture for that we added. So we've come in and have done the work beforehand on this particular model. So we're going to close that and just place it over here somewhere within our floor. We also went within our scene some type of 3D object within Vizrt, a built-in object. So we're going to drag a cogwheel up here as well, and we can reposition that within the scene. And we're adding this so that we can be able to add some lights and shadows within the scene. So let's just scale this up a little bit. We'll push this back in Z space as well. We'll rotate it towards us so that we can see, and then we also just want to add a bit of a hole in there so that the light can shine through. Now, this is a built-in geometry with Vizrt. So again, we can use the PBR material to color this, and we could come into our plugins again and search for the PBR material and drag that on there. We could also copy it from another container and drag it on there. However, that's going to just copy that whole wood look, which you may not want. We also have material definitions, which we have pre-made. So once you have a PBR material, you could slide this down into your MD content tab, let go, and it will rename or save this texture so that we could reuse it within another scene. And here I have a couple of other textures that we merged or saved. And once you have them, you can just drag them up onto your new object here. And if you want to replace it, you can just replace it with that new material definition. Once you place one of these material definitions on it, you can always click on it and then come in and change your PBR materials again by coming back into your folders, into your images, and just redragging the images into the proper places. So now that you have a 3D environment or some PBR materials on an object, there are a couple of things that you'll need to be aware of. One, when we place that environment map within our scene, we left the intensity at 100, and we could come back into our environment map and decrease the intensity of this scene. And now you can see as we take this number down how it's making that scene darker. And this is just as default with no lights. So if we want to cut this intensity in half, we'll leave it somewhere at 50%. We can come over to our scene editor window, and we have this button over here that has a light bulb, and this is the default lighting in Viz Engine. If you turn that on, you'll see a difference within your scene here. So when you're building a scene, you have this default light that you can use to light the scene. So at the moment we don't have any other current lights within our scene, but we could use this default lighting just to create some lighting in it. Now, we did all this on 3D objects, but you can also do this on text as well. So if we wanted to add some text to this and texture our text as well, we could do that. So if we come into our drop down here, we have our text geometry that we could drag up into the scene here. We could click on our text here, and first that we need to choose a particular font. So I'm just going to choose a font here. So we're going to type in some text right here. And within this text editor, if we double click on it, we can highlight it within the scene, and we can change the color here if need be. We're going to come down and add some effects to this. So one, if I wanted to extrude this font, by default it's set to razor, and if we change it to geometry, we get a new set of settings underneath the geometry, and we can come in and enable our extrude here, and then we have our bevel angle that we can select, and the bevel size, and so forth. Now for this text, we want to again use a PBR material, and we can come in and search for PBR, and we'll drag that onto our text. And again, we click on the icon, and we need to drag our images into its proper spots. So we'll go in and search for a new image to use here, a new PBR image, and we'll choose this fabric one here, and here we can start dragging our images into the proper place. And here's my color, here's my displacement, here's my normal, and here is my color or albedo. And once we come in and readjust this text, we'll make it a little bit bigger so that we can scale it up, and you can start to see that there is some texture there. As we rotate this towards us, you can now see even more. We can go back into the texture settings, and here is our extrusion depth that we can adjust this way. We also have our bevel size that you can adjust, and that corresponds to these icons up here. Now if we wanted to do something a little bit different or stylize this a little bit different, maybe a fabric front with a concrete side or something like that, we would need to copy this text here, and then we could come into a new PBR material and start adding the materials. So if you just want to replace materials, you can do that. We can just start dragging our materials up into the spot proper height here, and that will replace any material that you had in there before. And or you can always drag that to the trash can as well, just so you don't lose your spot and get confused. So we could drag our roughness and then our normal up there as well, and now we have a metallic texture. So now if I group these two together, put them in one group, we can rotate these back and make further adjustments. We want to decrease the extrusion on our first font, so we can take this down, and now you can see the more extrusion of the metallic font. So if we increase the extrusion on our metal and then rotate it on the group, you'll be able to see that we now have two separate textures within our text. And remember that we made the one text red, so that means we could come in and change that color text. And to do that, we would highlight the text. So you may need to just hide one text and highlight so that you can highlight the other one, and then you can come into that text and we can change the color so that it's no longer red, so that it's white or more gray now. And then when we turn that other text back on and come back in and rotate it, we have two separate textures here within our text. So that's a brief introduction of how you texture within Vizrt T5 using the Viz render pipeline. Now we want to save this scene because next we need to start adding some lights within this scene. So click Save, select a folder where you want to save it, and just give it a new name, and click Save. See you in the next tutorial.